Hey everybody, good morning and welcome into another edition of To The Point. It's a great day. It's September 7th. But the biggest reason why today is a great day, not because it's sunny, not because it's another nice day in September. It's because the NFL is back. It returns tonight in Kansas City, where the Detroit Lions come to town to try to spoil the championship banner raising of the Chiefs. But the NFL is back. There's a full slate of games this week. It's just phenomenal. It's too long. It's my favorite sport. It's the best time of year. If it only coincided with great weather, then it would be the ultimate gift that keeps on giving. But the NFL is returning, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. We got it until February. I can hardly contain myself today. I'm stoked about this news. I love the NFL. I love football, and it returns tonight. And we got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to go through every team that I have making the playoffs in both the AFC and the NFC. I will tell you the teams that made it last year, and I'll give you the changes coming this season. We're going to talk about the award winners this year. I have my MVP prediction, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, all of that. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it all, but also have the odds for these people winning the award. So if you want to go on FanDuel after you listen to this podcast, which you should, and place a bet, do it. Right before the season, you don't get better odds than you do right now, so hop on it. Super Bowl prediction today. That comes at the end of the show. We'll tee up Kansas City and Detroit. Chris Jones remains without a contract in KC. But before we get to predictions, there were two holdouts. You had Chris Jones in Kansas City and you had Nick Bosa in San Francisco. Nick Bosa, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year with over 20 sacks last season. He wanted a new deal. He wanted more money. And he was willing to miss all of training camp. He was willing to miss week 1 if he had to. But around supper time last night, it was announced Nick Bosa will not be missing a game this year. San Francisco said, you know what? You are our best defensive player. I think Nick Bosa is San Francisco's best player. You'd think, oh, it's a quarterback on every team, not on San Fran. Nick Bosa agreed to a 5-year, $170 million extension with the Niners, with an NFL record for a defensive player, $122.5 million guaranteed at signing. This makes all the sense in the world. Nick Bosa's in the prime of his career. He's better than his brother Joey, who also went in the top 5. He's been durable. He's been healthy. He's a human wrecking machine. Any left tackle has problems with Nick Bosa, and he creates such matchup problems for the opposition. You got to think, how are we going to block him? Can we double him? What are we going to do? Sometimes you see big deals and you go, does that make all that much sense? This one does. Nick Bosa is right up there with Micah Parsons, with TJ Watt, as being the best pass rusher in all of the NFL. San Francisco can now say, we have you, Nick Bosa. We added Javon Hargrave, who led the NFL in sacks by defensive tackle last year with 11.5. Eric Armstead, who's just a monster in the middle of that defense. We have these 3 guys that can just attack opposing teams' quarterbacks, that can attack offensive lines. And if you don't feel comfortable, you're going to have a long day. Because we got guys that are just straight ballers. Plus you pair that with Fred Warner, with Hufanga. This defense Although DeMeco Ryans departed, he's now the head coach of the Houston Texans. They have Steve Wilkes, who probably should be the head coach of the Carolina Panthers right now, but they didn't give him the job. So now he's a DC in San Francisco, hoping that it leads to a head coaching job in the future. But he's one of the best players in the NFL, period. To me, he is the best defensive player in the NFL, so he should be paid accordingly. And this Bosa family, their father was an NFL player, Joey, his older brother, an NFL player, and now Nick, an NFL player. Joey held out for money. Nick holds out for money. Their father did. It's the family business, football, and maximizing your wealth. And I got no problem with that. In today's culture, it seems to be, oh, you got to take less. Oh, you got to do this. You can't take that contract. It's got to be this amount of years. You can't take this much money. Blah, 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 blah. Screw that. It's at the end of the day, there's no guarantee you're going to win. San Francisco has tried to get a quarterback. They failed time and time again. And Brock Purdy might be great. He might be terrible. I don't know. He played limited time last year. He came in, and when he was in there, he played well. But Jimmy Garoppolo was good in this system. C.J. Beathard was decent in this system, was a backup in Jacksonville. So it's more about, they've tried to do it this way with the patchwork quarterback and building a great defense. So on every other team, the best player makes the most money, which is the quarterback. The best player on the San Francisco 49ers is Nick Bosa, and he's paid accordingly. Love it. Holding out, who wouldn't want to make as much money as you can? That's what I don't get about sports right now. A lot of it's hockey talk, but it does happen in the NFL. Oh, you can't take more than this guy. Why the hell not? There's no guarantees you're going to win. In business, when you sell if you're trying to sell a business, are you going to sell it to a guy that is offering you less money because he has a better outlook on what the company will do in the future? Do you like what he's going to do more with your business after you sell it? Or are you going to sell it to the guy who offers you the biggest check? He might not have a clue what the hell he's doing. He might have his head up his ass, but who cares? It's about the check. You're trying to get out of the business. It doesn't matter. These sports, one team wins every year. And taking less money, it makes you seem great. And okay, you're a good guy, and a couple fans like you for it. They like you for it in the moment, and the second you don't win, they turn their back on you again. That's how sports works. At the end of the day, it's about having the talent on your team. San Francisco has a lot of skill position players. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, and their quarterback is kind of a faceless person. It's Brock Purdy, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not a guy that has elite attributes. But knowing that about your team, you pay them accordingly. And he's worth every penny. Because he's in the prime of his career. And he knows how to play. And this San Francisco team is still in a window, despite the failed Trey Lance trade and despite the fact that they've stumbled their way into a Mr. Irrelevant quarterback. And if any other team, you're looking at the board going, we got Brock Purdy, who we took in the last pick of a draft. He's our quarterback. Every other team, you go, we're fucked. You're the Arizona Cardinals. You're the Rams with 34 rookies on a team. But no, San Francisco comes into this season right there with the Eagles as the betting favorite to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. A huge part of that is Nick Bosa. He's a monster. This changes the outlook for week 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sure they're going through their week. First day of practice is on Wednesday on a game week. And you go, okay, we don't got Nick Bosa. Great. Tackles. Easier day for you. Still not easy, San Francisco. But guess what? You don't got to do it, Nick Bosa. Then the contract signing comes in. You go, oh, well, that sucks. Now we really got to be aware of who's on the field. We got this monster over here with huge arms who can throw offensive tackles around. It's going to be tough. But it's a good piece of business by the San Francisco 49ers. They need him. They think they can win a Super Bowl, so you pay the guy. I listened to an interview with John Lynch this summer on the Pivot podcast, and it was a really good interview. John Lynch was forthcoming. He was obviously a Hall of Fame player. He was good in the media. He gave an honest interview. He goes, I don't know how long I'm going to do this. This is his 8th season in San Francisco. Said he likes the job, but you want to get that team over the hump. And Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have had success, no doubt about it. They got to a Super Bowl and lost. They've been to back-to-back NFC championship games. But ultimately, the pedigree, the San Francisco 49ers, their mythology, their being is about Super Bowl championships. Montana, Steve Young, that's what they did. And it was more, you could argue, when Joe was there, Joe was one of the best quarterbacks ever. But you could argue Jerry Rice was a bit bigger figure than even Joe Montana was. When Steve Young played with T.O., Steve Young played with Jerry himself. Jerry was this huge figure, the best wide receiver in NFL history. But both Joe and Steve Young are in Canton, in the Hall of Fame. They built those legacies. They started off making this feeling that San Francisco is title town, San Francisco in the Bay Area, which then led to Golden State being as successful as they have been over the last decade plus in the NBA. In the immediate future, or just the distant past, I'll put it in better words, San Francisco has been the most dominant pro sports team of any North American sport. I don't care. They've been more successful, and the only team that you could rival it might be the San Francisco Giants, who are also in the Bay Area. So there's a lot of pressure for the Niners to win one, to be up there with these other great teams in their vicinity. So it's an interesting year because I think the Niners are going to be really good again. But can they get over that hump? That's their only goal this year for San Francisco, is to be better than an NFC championship game, to win it all. If you don't win it all, the season's a miss. Plain and simple. Now, who is making the playoffs in the AFC and NFC? This was an exercise that took some time. I'll give you my outlook on how I came up with this. I went through every team. I went through their schedule. And I pontificated on if the teams were going to win. I'll even show you if you watch the video. These are every division. Wins and losses. I got pages and pages of this stuff. Here, every team are the wins and losses, and I got their records on top of them. That's what I've been doing the last couple weeks. More work than it seems, but I enjoyed it. It'll be worth nothing when teams start winning games that I had them losing, but it's still a fun experiment for me. I got time in my hands. That's what I do. But I went through every team, every game, and I thought about who is going to win these certain games. Let's start with the AFC. Last year, the AFC, the playoff teams were the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who won the NFC South. The Cincinnati Bengals, who won the AFC North. The Buffalo Bills winning the AFC East. You had the Los Angeles Chargers, the Baltimore Ravens, and the 7th-seeded Miami Dolphins. So the AFC, as we've gone through in these divisional previews, is pretty loaded again. A lot's changed. Teams have gotten better. Teams have gotten worse. Over the last 15 years, on average, there are 6 teams every year, 6 teams year to year that will be in the playoffs one year and miss the next. And I've gone through that same trajectory here, and I think it's not just a trend, I think it's a fact. There are experts that I've seen that are predicting that all 7 AFC playoff teams from last year will be there this season. I don't see it that way. I have some spicy takes. I do. Some of them are a little more out there, some I'm less confident in. Let's get this going. So I'll start with division winners. To me, the number 1 seed in the AFC, the team the team with the 1 seed. It's hard for me to get this out because it's a battle for me. These 2 teams are extremely close, but I'm going to stick with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs have been the 1 seed the last 4 or 5 years, ever since Brady left the AFC. The AFC Championship game has gone through Arrowhead. The Chiefs have lost Orlando Brown Jr., they've lost pieces, and they're in a tough division, which we'll get to. But I look at it and go, the Kansas City Chiefs still have the best player in football, in Patrick Mahomes. They have the best coach in the NFL, in Andy Reid. Sorry, Patriots fans, but you know it's true. They don't have Chris Jones yet, but he'll be back eventually. Travis Kelce might miss week 1, but okay, it's 1 game. What I bank on with the Chiefs is consistency, their winning mentality, and just what they've proven the last number of years. It was Juju Smith-Schuster last year and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And the thought was, who are these receivers? Tyreek Hill is gone. There's no way in hell the Kansas City Chiefs can do this. Patrick Mahomes is going to struggle. He went on and won the MVP. He was the best player in the league. They got the number 1 seed in the AFC. This year, Juju Smith-Schuster's in New England. It's Sky Moore. It's Kadarius Toney. It's MVS. Justin Watson. Justin Ross. Another plethora of guys that you wouldn't put on a bingo card or put in a Jeopardy game because nobody would know who the hell these guys are. But you know who you do know? Andy Reid. You know who you do know? Patrick Mahomes. You know Travis Kelce. They can figure it out. They can scheme guys open. My trepidation, while I wasn't so confident with the number 1 seed and a team right below them, is because of the new offensive line. There's concerns there. I don't think their defense is as good as it was last year. But I think they're going to figure it out. Same OC with Andy Reid, same defensive coordinator and Steve Spagnuolo. The winning mentality. And watching the quarterback documentary, I truly think this Chiefs team goes in every week and they go into every season knowing full well we know what the expectations is. Patrick Mahomes knows he wants to be looked at as an all-time great. He's got 2 Super Bowls. He has 3 appearances. He wants to be in the conversation with Montana, with Tom Brady, with the best of the best. And to do that, you need to win Super Bowls. You need to have championships in North America to be in that conversation. So I think this season's going to be more difficult, yes, than it was last year for the Kansas City Chiefs. But at the end of the day, I still believe that their quarterback, their smarts, their knowledge, and their experience will push them to being the number one seed in the AFC. The number 2 seed, I have the Cincinnati Bengals. This was nip and tuck for me. The Cincinnati Bengals are better than they were last year, in my opinion. Joe Burrow is going to play week 1. That was announced yesterday. He's healthy. Still have T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd. Likely the last year that the three of them can play together just due to contracts and money that they have to disperse elsewhere. Cincinnati has struggled since Joe Burrow entered the league to provide a good offensive line. They got the best left tackle available in free agency, signing Orlando Brown Jr., who was with the Kansas City Chiefs last year. Lou Anarumo was a guy I thought was going to be a head coach, defensive coordinator for Cincinnati. He didn't get a job, so he's back coaching that defense. Yes, they lost my guy Jesse Bates. They lose Von Bell, but they have good players. Daxton Hill playing at Michigan. He's in his second year. He looked good in the preseason. He made some plays. He has some bounce. They still have Trey Hendrickson. They have Sam Hubbard. This team can rush the passer. They have the second best quarterback in the NFL. Hard to argue they don't have the best trio of wide receivers. I like what they're doing in Philly quite a bit as well. But Cincinnati's another team. Super Bowl 2 years ago. AFC Championship last year. They are on the doorstep of winning. They are so close. They have beaten Kansas City in Kansas City in a playoff game. Joe Burrow has done that. I think they're going to battle the whole year to try to get that number 1 seed. What I think the slight difference is, I think Cincinnati's division is tougher than Kansas City's. Cleveland is a good team. I don't have them making the playoffs, but Cleveland is a tough out, and they will likely finish above 500 and miss. Pittsburgh, improved, better team. Baltimore Ravens were a playoff team last year. They have the best receivers of Lamar Jackson's career. They're tough, and they always play Cincinnati tough. So I have Cincinnati just slightly below Kansas City. They play against each other late in the season. I believe it's the second last week. That game could decide it. But I have Cincinnati as the 2 seed. They are just continuously a great team. This is where it gets spicy. My 3rd seed in the AFC, I have the New York Jets. The New York Jets are a hype machine. Aaron Rodgers, Sauce Gardner, Hard Knocks. There's all kinds of expectations for the New York Jets. Garrett Wilson. And I worry about overhype. I worry about it with the Detroit Lions, who kick off the season tonight. But I hear about the New York Jets offensive line, and it's going to be a problem. And there's reasons to think that. And there's reasons to think Aaron Rodgers is not the same quarterback that he used to be, which I don't disagree with. But there's just something about the Jets this year that I'm buying. They are also in a tough division. New England's not talented, but they have a top 10, maybe a top 5 defense. They're tough. The Dolphins were a playoff team last year. They have all kinds of talent on that roster. And you have the Bills, who've been winning this division for some time. I like Josh Allen. He's great. Stephon Diggs and him, when they're on the same page, they're as elite as it gets. But the Bills just smell to me. I think they're under a lot of pressure to perform this year. If I'm looking at the elite of the elite, Josh Allen might be regarded as a great quarterback when his career ends, because he is. But he's also playing in an era with Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. And in my mind, he will never be better than either of them. If Von Miller misses significant time, he's missing the first 4 games. The pass rush of the Buffalo Bills, I don't know if it's going to be good enough to win them games defensively. The Jets defense is going to be very good. I think they're going to create turnovers galore. They have Sauce Gardner, who is the best lockdown corner now in the NFL. The Jets had Darrelle Revis at one point. Sauce is a bigger Darrelle Revis. I think Aaron will play well. I think he's got something to prove. I think he wants to show people he's still got it. The Jets have a brutal schedule. No doubt about it. They open with the Bills, obviously. Then they got to go to Dallas to play them boys. Then the Jets host the Patriots. Divisional game. Not easy. Then they got the Chiefs on a Sunday night. If they could go 500 through that, they go 2-2. That's a success. They're going to be watched all season long. They're going to be covered ad nauseum. But I trust the defense. I trust Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed to perform. Garrett Wilson's going to have a massive season. I nearly picked him for Offensive Player of the Year because I think he's going to be that good with Aaron Rodgers. But I had the Jets as the 3rd seed. I just look at their team. It's not because of the hype. It's not because of Hard Knocks. There's 2 teams on this list that I look at their quarterbacks and I'm worried about it. And Aaron Rodgers is one of them. He's one of the most talented guys ever. He's a future Hall of Famer. No doubt about it. But his play has regressed. But for some reason, in New York, fresh start, I think he's going to play well. I think he's going to play well. And it will be the story of the season. The Jets. Every week, they will be on watch on how they perform and how they go out there. They could easily start 1-3, and that's a brutal start to the season. But I have them banking winning week 1 against the Bills. Because that's a big win in getting to this ultimate divisional crown. My number 4 seed in the AFC is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had the Jags winning the AFC South for back-to-back years. Trevor Lawrence will be the quarterback that takes the biggest step this year into becoming a superstar. Calvin Ridley is coming back from a year-long suspension due to gambling on games. Calvin Ridley was a number 1 in Atlanta. Nobody knew about it because he played for Atlanta. He is. You'll be ready to watch him. He's great. They still got good weapons. Marvin Jones around him. They kept Evan Ingram, who's been great since leaving the Giants, coming over to the Jaguars. Their offensive line is better. They lost pieces on their defense because they spent so much money the last couple of years to build a good team to make the postseason. I think the Jags will go through times where they lose games that they shouldn't. You can look at it and go, well, they play an easier division. Yes. But there's games on their schedule that are tough for them, quite frankly. When I was going through this, I went, I don't know about Jacksonville. For instance, I got their schedule here. They got to play Kansas City this year. They got to play the Bills. They get New Orleans, Pittsburgh, the Niners, Cincinnati, Cleveland, the Ravens. So they got to play the AFC North. They do get to play the NFC South. They get to play. The NFC South. They get to play the AFC North and the AFC East. So there's some tough games in there for them. But I trust in Trevor Lawrence. I trust in Doug Peterson. I think it's a good head coach, quarterback combination. They built a foundation there. Shad Khan is not meddling. He's letting his players, his coaches do their own thing. I have the Jags repeating as the AFC South champion. The 5th seed in the AFC last year was the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't have the Los Angeles Chargers as the 5th seed this year. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to push Cincinnati for the divisional title. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a sleeping giant, and I think they're a very, very good team. They're going to let the quarterback cook. Kenny Pickett can throw the ball down the field. They're going to open up the offense. George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Darnell Washington out of Georgia, Pat Freiermuth, who's already a stud, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren on offense. This team can score points. This team can create. They have so many things that they can do to opposing teams to make their life hell. Not to mention, Kenny Pickett is athletic as well. Cam Hayward on that defense, Micah Fitzpatrick, a healthy, optimal word there, TJ Watt, missed most of last year. They still finished above 500. This team is good, really good. They're going to finish just a little bit behind Cincinnati. They will have a better record than the New York Jets. But the problem is, if you don't win your division, you finish below every other divisional winner. So they are the 5th seed. I think the Steelers are a better team than the Jets, and I think the Steelers are a better team than the Jacksonville Jaguars. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way the system works. So you finish as a 5th seed, you don't get to play a home playoff game, even if you have a better record. They'll have to go to Jacksonville in this equation, which is probably the best place to play of these 3 teams when it comes to a road game. Just with crowd noise and all that comes into it. But Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. Mike Tomlin remains one of the best motivators in the league. They've kept it afloat with Ben Roethlisberger and going through years with Mitch Trubisky and all this stuff. This team is ready to compete, ready to play in the AFC with the best teams. They finished above 500, missed the playoffs last year. They're going to have a better record than they did last year, but they're going to make the playoffs this year as well. Pittsburgh Steelers, 5th seed. 6th seed in the AFC, I have the Buffalo Bills. Yes, Buffalo fans, the Bills are going to make the playoffs, but they're not going to win the division, and I think they're not going to be as productive as some think they are going to be. I got their schedule here. Let me pull that up. They might have the same record as the Steelers. I think they both could go 11-6, but the Steelers might have a head-to-head advantage. Might just get a tiebreaker. Bills have to play the Jets, Dolphins twice, Jags, Giants, who were a playoff team last year, Cincinnati, Denver, the Eagles, Kansas City, Dallas, the Chargers. Not a whole lot of gimmies in there. Okay, you get Vegas, Washington, the Patriots, you could argue. But, again, I went through Buffalo at the beginning. I just have my trepidations about this team. They should win their division. Though they're the FanDuel betting favorite. I don't care. I'm not betting on them. There's just, I love parts of their defense with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde in the secondary and Matt Milano. But they lost Tremaine Edmonds, which is a huge loss. He goes to Chicago. He helped Matt Milano a good deal. Can this team stop the run? Can they make the big plays that are necessary? They weren't close to winning a Super Bowl last year. Anybody who makes the argument that Buffalo was close is lying to you. They got shellacked in the AFC Championship game by Cincinnati. They will be a team to watch. Because yes, Sean McDermott and yes, Brandon Beane got extensions. And you have DeMar Hamlin and all the great things that have come because he's living and he's a hero to everybody. But once this team starts playing and they start losing games in Buffalo, pressure will be on the Pagulas and on Sean McDermott, the head coach, who's entering his 8th season with Buffalo. He's been there a minute, and they haven't gotten to an AFC Championship game yet. 9 out of 10 coaches is fired with that record. I get Josh Allen's been great. You go through it all. But you need to have some success. You need to get over the hump. They haven't. My 7 seed. This was difficult. The Dolphins were the 7 seed last year. I don't have the Dolphins making the playoffs. Dolphins are very talented. If Tua can stay healthy, I very well could be wrong. I don't trust in that. Vic Fangio is a very good defensive coordinator. I just think the Dolphins' schedule is brutal. They got a lot of tough games. I'll pull that up. Let me find that for you. The Finns. I got the Finns finishing below 500. Chargers, Pats, Broncos, Bills, Giants, Philly, Kansas City, Jets twice, Titans, Dallas, the Ravens, and the Bills to finish the season. Yeesh. Miami's talented. They talk like they're a piece away. They're not a bad team, but the AFC just has too many good teams. I think they miss. Baltimore was a playoff team last year. I don't have Baltimore making the playoffs this year. They have better receivers. They have a healthy Lamar Jackson. They have a new offensive coordinator in Todd Monken. So that all seems positive, like it should result in better things. And John Harbaugh is a solid coach. I hate their defense. They have one of the worst pass rushing combos in the entire NFL. Marlon Humphrey, their corner, is out, and it's undetermined how long he's going to be out. They're not even talking about it, which scares me. And the other corners on their team aren't all that good. They blow leads. They give up a lot of points. They make careless mistakes. I love Lamar. I think Zay Flowers is going to be a really fun rookie to watch out of Boston College. Odell will be fun until he gets hurt or something. Baltimore's very good, but Pittsburgh, there's not 3 teams coming out of that division to make the postseason in the AFC. Just don't see it. My 7 seed, and this is, I can't believe I'm saying it, because I have such trepidation about saying this team. Because I saw them coming last year. I knew this team was going to be bad. I knew they were going to fail. Everybody was predicting to make the playoffs, and they didn't, and I felt vindicated in my opinion. And now a year later, I'm flipping on that opinion and banking on Russell Wilson, which just makes me sick coming out of my mouth to say it. But I got the Denver Broncos as the 7th seed. I trust in Sean Payton. I trust in the Denver defense. And while I don't fully trust Russell Wilson, I think the team has talent. And I believe that they will overcome it. They will overcome him. He will play better. He'll have a chip on his shoulder. And I just believe somehow they get it done. You get to play the Raiders twice, which is an advantage this year, as we talked about yesterday. Potentially a split with Kansas City. Unlikely, but maybe. And I think they'll have success against the Chargers. I don't have the Chargers making the playoffs. That might be the biggest pick of them all. Justin Herbert's great, uber talented. Kellen Moore was a good offensive coordinator in Dallas. I expect him to be a good offensive coordinator in Los Angeles. But I don't like the receiving core. I don't like parts of their defense. I don't like Brandon Staley as a head coach. So the Chargers might be the most disappointing team because I think they expect big things, make the playoffs last year, blow one of the biggest leads in postseason history, and you gag it up to the Jags. I think it gets worse for them this year. They're going to win week 1 against the Dolphins, but I don't have them making the playoffs. My outside looking in, the 3 teams, I look at Tennessee. I think Tennessee in the AFC South, they very well could get in, and that could be a team I'm wrong on. They could usurp Denver. Tannehill is still a good quarterback. You have Treylon Burks. You added DeAndre Hopkins. Derrick Henry is still a great running back. They have a great defense. Mike Vrabel, another very good coach. But I have them missing out slightly. Baltimore, and I think Cleveland is that other team that would really scare me because Cleveland has a very good roster. And if asshole number 4, Deshaun Watson, can stop groping women and focus on playing football like he did in Houston, they can be dangerous. Because they have the talent and they have just the players to figure it out. But that's my AFC. KC, Cincinnati, the New York Jets, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. 5-7, I have Pittsburgh, the Buffalo Bills, and the Denver Broncos. So Baltimore, the Chargers, and Miami, playoff teams in the AFC last year, will miss this season. Let's go to the NFC. NFC is not as loaded as the AFC with great teams. So it makes this difficult. We just talked about Nick Bosa and what they bring to the table. But my pick here for who is going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC actually came down to 2 teams in the same division. And those 2 teams were in the NFC East. And I decided to roll with the Philadelphia Eagles with the number 1 seed. Philly was the 1 seed in the NFC last year, and they got to the Super Bowl. I have them repeating as the number 1 seed because I love their team. Jalen Hurts is a flat-out baller. A.J. Brown was a great trade that's turned out. Devontae Smith will be even better than he was last year. They have 7 running backs on this roster who can all play football. They're paying a combined $7 million. They have the best offensive line. They have Dallas Goedert, who's a unicorn tight end. Defensively, they basically have the whole University of Georgia alum. You got Jalen Carter, who they got with the 9th pick, who should have went number 1. You get Jordan Davis, Nakobe Dean. They're stacked. Fletcher Cox came back for another season. Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce returned because they believe this team can win a Super Bowl, as do I. It's difficult to get back to the Super Bowl, to repeat, to get over the hangover, even if you get there, to find that success. Many teams haven't been able to do it. I think Philly has the gumption, has the quarterback, has the coach and Nick Sirianni to get them over the top. I just think they have too much talent for them to fail. They're in a weaker NFC. I like the Philadelphia Eagles a lot. And again, I was battling for the 1 seed between them and the Dallas Cowboys. And I truly believe it'll be one of those 2 teams in that division. And they play in a tough division because you got to deal with Washington, who's better. And you got to deal with the Giants, who were a playoff team last year. But I'm going with Philly because I just think they're slightly. I like Jalen Hurts more than I like Dak Prescott. I like Nick Sirianni and the coaches in Philly more than I like Mike McCarthy calling plays for them Cowboys. But make no mistake about it, which I'll just save this. Dallas is my 5th seed because Dallas, again, you don't win the division. You finish, the best you can finish is 5th. And that's where I have Dallas going. For years, you heard Dallas is a bona fide threat to win the Super Bowl when they weren't. It was made up. It was an argument because Dallas has to be in the headlines. They absolutely are this year. Micah Parsons, Dorrance Armstrong, you add Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Cooks with CeeDee Lamb, with Michael Gallup. Running back, the offensive line, Zach Martin, new contract, Terrence Steele, new contract. Tyron Smith is healthy at left tackle. If they're going to do it, the time is now for the Dallas Cowboys. They're loaded. They're loaded, and to me, they're right there with anybody in the NFC as the best team, including the Eagles, including the San Francisco 49ers. Can they overcome it? Oddly enough, this year, going into 2023-2024, might be the first time ever that you could say that the Philadelphia Eagles and the the Dallas Cowboys and the Toronto Maple Leafs both have realistic chances of winning their respective championships. They've been pontificated about for 5-6 years each that they could when it was horse hockey. But guess what? These two teams can in their respective sports. Part of it's circumstances, part because you've built a really good roster. Dallas has. They have a lot of talent. They have a good team. I just like Philly a little bit more. But Dallas will be no picnic to play in the postseason. They won a game on the road in the postseason last year. They ultimately fell to San Francisco. We'll see what happens next time around. My number 2 seed, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Philly has a great defense. Dallas has a great defense. San Francisco has a great defense. All just common things between these 3 teams. And I think those 3 teams are the best teams in the conference. Bosa, I just went through it with San Francisco to start off the show. They just find ways to win games. They're a very good home team. Kyle Shanahan's a great coordinator. We'll talk tomorrow about their Week 1 game. I have some thoughts about that one. They lost in Week 1 last year to the Chicago Bears in a rainstorm. But they regroup. They find ways to win seemingly every year. They have multiple quarterback injuries, but they can overcome it because of just the overall talent on the roster. They are one of my favorite teams to watch because they're just so methodical. They're so precise in their routes and how they do their business. And I think they have the game of the week this weekend in their game against Pittsburgh. But San Francisco is an elite football team. They keep a great roster. They know how to do it. You lose D'Amico Ryans. You replace him with Steve Wilkes. They lost their coach to the Jets, Robert Saleh, a few years ago. You replaced him with D'Amico Ryans. It's just rinse and repeat. You have guys on the staff who are good at the job. They take over, and you keep the machine rolling. Back-to-back NFC Championship games, they very well could be in that position again this year. San Francisco, 2 seed. 3rd seed in the NFC. This is a new division winner, a new playoff team. The New Orleans Saints. I don't see how the New Orleans Saints don't win the NFC South. Derek Carr is the new quarterback. I like Derek Carr more than most. Michael Thomas is back healthy. You got Rashid Shaheed, who's awesome. You get a really fun tight end who's a breakout threat. If you haven't had a fantasy draft, look at this guy, Jawan Johnson, who is a sneaky good tight end. A solid offensive line, a defense that's been great for a long time, just the offense has been brutal around them. Demario Davis, Cam Jordan returns, Marshawn Lattimore is healthy, and you get to play twice against the Bucks. You get to play twice against the Carolina Panthers, who have no weapons and have a first overall rookie quarterback. and the Atlanta Falcons, who the hell knows what Desmond Ridder is going to be at the NFL level. New Orleans could go 6-0 in this division. They likely won't, but could they go 5-1? Easy? Absolutely. There's an easy 5 wins. What do I have New Orleans going? I have New Orleans going 12-5. I think they could get 12 wins with their schedule because it's not that difficult, and they're a talented bunch. If something happens to Derek Carr, Jameis Winston might be the best backup quarterback in the NFL. So they have depth with him. Saints are good. Saints are going to be very, very good. If everything holds up and everything goes together, Dennis Allen, as their head coach, not perfect, but he's a good defensive guy, and that's what he needs to focus on. But I like New Orleans winning the NFC South, 3rd seed. 4th seed in the NFC. Every book, sports book that is, has the Detroit Lions winning this division. That's where the money's coming. Detroit Lions are going to win the division. They are the best team. It's their year. It's finally time for Detroit to break through. Well, I like Detroit. I think their team is really talented. They got a lot of pieces that Armand St. Brown is an incredibly talented wide receiver. Aiden Hutchinson at pass rusher, I think, will have a big sophomore season. I like Dan Campbell. They're building a culture down there in Detroit, and Jared Goff has played great with Ben Johnson as his offensive coordinator. So it screams Detroit wins the NFC North because Aaron Rodgers is gone. The Bears are still retooling. Maybe Minnesota can bring it back after a 13-win season. But no, I'm going a completely different way. I have the Green Bay Packers winning the NFC North. Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. And in the offseason, you haven't heard much about the Packers. Jordan Love is just another quarterback. We haven't seen him play. He's not all that good. Green Bay's going to fall off. Well, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Luke Musgrave, who they took out of Oregon State, new tight end. David Bakhtiari is healthy. Elton Jenkins is healthy at right tackle. John Runyon they have a great offensive line. It's quiet. Shh. The Detroit Lions are the team to watch. Okay. Even Minnesota is talked about more than Green Bay. I think you see both sides of the Aaron Rodgers trade make the postseason this year. Packers fans have little to no expectations. Perfect. Detroit Lions have all expectations. Scary. Because they haven't had them since Barry Sanders was in the league. I might still have Detroit making the playoffs. Wait on that. But I like Green Bay. They're a better team. Their defense was disappointing last year. The biggest disappointment by far in the NFC in any division and any group in my mind, offense or defense. New defensive coordinator. I like this group defensive. They got so many ballers that can make plays. Their pass rush is pretty solid in Green Bay. You can get them right now as the 3rd best odds to win the NFC North on FanDuel. Looking at this defense, Russell Douglas, ball hawk. Darnell Savage, first-round pick. Jair Alexander, great corner. Rashawn Gary, Quay Walker, Devondre Campbell's been great. Still have Preston Smith, Kenny Clark. This defense is going to cook. They're going to put it together. Watch out for Jaden Reed. He's a wide receiver they took out of Michigan State. He's going to play in the slot. I think he's going to have some big plays for Jordan Love. Two-headed monster at running back. They're going to slightly be better than the Detroit Lions. I have Green Bay winning the NFC North. Dallas is my 5th seed. My 6th seed I have the Seattle Seahawks. Playoff team last year. I believe they'll be a playoff team this year. They were the 7th seed last season. Just squeaked in. I think they will again. They get to play Arizona twice. They get to play the Rams twice. Okay, you got to play San Francisco twice, but you'll take that if you can play those teams 4 times combined. Geno Smith, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker Jr. III. Seattle can produce offensively. Defense holding up is another thought, but I think they're a good enough team in the NFC that doesn't have that many great teams, let's be honest, to go back-to-back years in the playoffs. Geno Smith will never be a Pro Bowler. It won't be an All-Pro, but he's going to throw 25-plus touchdown passes. He's going to be efficient, and he's got one of the best 1-2-3 tandems in the NFL. Lockett is a red zone monster. DK Metcalf can catch anything. And Jigba in the slot, and then you pair him with Noah Fant, who's a decent tight end as well, who was a part of the Russell Wilson trade. Seattle's offense is going to cook. They're going to put up numbers. Their receivers are not bad fantasy options as well. I don't even do stupid fantasy football, but if you do, I'm trying to help you. If you do it, look at these guys, because Geno Smith is going to get them the football, and they're going to put up good numbers. In my 7th seed, I have Detroit. So Lions fans, I'm not against you. I'm not trying to pull you apart here. I do have you making the playoffs for the first time in forever. Don't know if you'll win a playoff game for the first time in forever. But I got you making the playoffs. They're a good team in Detroit. They are. I like Jared Goff, every part of their team. Sometimes hype is too much. It's too much on a team. They were slow starters last year. They had a great end to the season. They need to find balance from the beginning to play the right way and just consistently play good week in and week out. I had them edging out the New York Giants, who were a playoff team last year. I think they miss. And I have them edging out Minnesota, who won the NFC North last year, winning 13 games. I think Minnesota will score some points. I think they'll be a good team. But this is how I look at it. Philly or Dallas, one of them won't win the division. The other team's making the playoffs. Seattle gets to play a bunch of bad teams. Detroit gets to play the Bears twice. And if Detroit can beat out Minnesota in those head-to-head battles, take one off Green Bay potentially, there's a possibility there that Minnesota, who has a lame duck quarterback going into the year, Kirk Cousins was not given a contract extension. Kevin O'Connell had a great first year. There could be some regression. They changed their entire defense. New defensive coordinator coming in. A lot of roster turnover for the Giants. 2 really good teams again. You were a playoff team last year. I just think it's going to be tough to have that same record. Your skill positions might be better, but I don't trust Daniel Jones. And if there's an injury to Saquon Barkley, at any point, the Giants are in deep, deep trouble. With Danny Dimes having to be a quarterback that just relies on his passing ability rather than his athleticism. So Philly, San Fran, Nolans, and Green Bay. And then I got Dallas, Seattle, and Detroit as my playoff teams in the NFC. So 3 new playoff teams in the AFC, 3 new playoff teams in the NFC. So 6 total for this year. So a lot of changes, for sure. A lot of changes. Awards. MVP of the NFL. Tricky, because you got a lot of options, obviously. A lot of great players. But I was going through this, and I'm thinking it's going to be a team that obviously has a good record. That's an obvious one. It's going to be a team that ultimately has production, has great success. And I'm going with Jalen Hurts as the MVP of this season. I think Philly's the number 1 seed in the NFC. I think they'll have the best record in the NFL. Jalen Hurts right now has the 4th best odds to win the MVP. He finished 2nd last year. You have Mahomes at plus 600. You have Joe Burrow at plus 700. Then it's Josh Allen plus 700. And he's got the 5th best odds. Herbert's above Jalen Hurts. My God. You get him at plus 1,200 right now. 5th best odds. Those are going to go up as he plays games. Jalen Hurts was so close to winning the MVP in the Super Bowl last year in a losing effort. He was that good. I just think he's a star. He's got the receiving core. He's got the ability to get touchdown with his arm and his legs. He's going to put up good numbers. Philly's going to have a very good team. I like the Eagles to be great this year, and I also like Jalen Hurts to be great as well. So easy one for me. Let's go to Defensive Player of the Year. This was tough because Nick Bosa won it last year. He's obviously coming back. Micah Parsons is the betting favorite to win. It hasn't won one yet. I think he will get a lot of votes if he has a great season. And I think the Cowboys are going to be very good. You got on the list, you have TJ Watt, who's coming off an injury. And if the Steelers can make the playoffs, which I think they will, that's a good bet. But I'm going with more of a long shot. I'm going with a guy that you rarely see somebody win the award at this position. The last guy to win a Defensive Player of the Year at this position was Stephon Gilmore when he was a member of the New England Patriots. I have Sauce Gardner of the New York Jets winning the MVP. He's arguably the best corner in the NFL. He's going to be on the team with the most spotlight. He's going to be going up against the best wide receivers every week. He'll be playing Stephon Diggs this week. He has games where he'll play against the Chiefs this year. They play Dallas. He'll be going up against CeeDee Lamb. I think he's going to lead the league in interceptions. I think the Jets are going to win the AFC East. If you pair all that together, he's dominant. He's shutting off half of his field. Sauce Gardner is my choice. Micah Parsons is a good bet at plus 450. But you can get Sauce right now at plus 2,000. He's the best in the position. If he's dominant, though, he will get votes, and it doesn't hurt that he plays on the Jets, just like it's not a bad idea to bet on Micah Parsons, in my opinion, because of him playing on the Cowboys. But I'm going with Sauce. Offensive Player of the Year. I'm running it back. Justin Jefferson won it last year. I have Justin Jefferson winning it again this year. He has the 3rd best odds at plus 1,400. Jamar Chase is the leader in this category. I just think Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL. They don't give the MVP to a wide receiver. Even if the Vikings miss the playoffs, he can still win the award in my mind because that's just the way it works sometimes. If not, I see McCaffrey at the top of this list. McCaffrey's not going to win it. He won't have enough snaps just the way they run that offense. He won't win it. Garrett Wilson is interesting at plus 2,500 with the Jets. Jamar Chase is good. I think Joe Burrow will have a great year. I think he'll finish second in MVP to Jalen Hurts. So if you look at it that way, Jamar Chase very well could do it. Maybe A.J. Brown is another guy if they'll give it to a wide receiver if the quarterback on a certain team wins the MVP. So I would hedge that way. But I still like Justin Jefferson because I think he's the best receiver in the NFL, most dynamic guy. Rookie of the year. Rookie of the year. Bijan Robinson's the betting favorite. He plays for the Atlanta Falcons. I think he'll be used a lot. But they got good tailbacks there with Huntley and Tyler Algier. So I don't know. And is he going to score touchdowns once they get into the red zone? That concerns me. Bryce Young at plus 450. I don't think there's a chance in hell he wins this. If he plays well enough to be in the conversation to win this award, that's a hell of a year. His weapons stink, and Carolina, don't have faith in them. Anthony Richardson, I don't think the Colts are going to be that good. Their weapons are not good in Indianapolis. I don't think a quarterback's going to win this award, quite frankly. My pick is Jahmyr Gibbs, plus 900, running back, Detroit Lions. Was fun at Alabama. Dynamic player, can make things happen. I think he'll be used quite a bit. They do have David Montgomery paired with him in Detroit. But Jahmyr Gibbs will catch passes. He'll be used in the red zone to get rushing touchdowns more than I think David Montgomery will. Two-headed monster at running back, but I think he'll be used more than Bijan in specific situations. I think Detroit will have a better roster. If Detroit can make the playoffs with a rookie, I think he has a better chance. Same with, say, Jordan Addison if Minnesota does. I don't think they will. Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith and Jigba with Seattle. But I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs, plus 900, fourth best odds currently on FanDuel Sportsbook. Comeback player of the year. This is easy. I don't know if there's even a discussion about this. If Damar Hamlin plays one snap this year, he's going to win the award. If he plays one snap at any time this season, he will win the award for being dead and then playing football again. On the list, there's John Mechie, who's a Canadian, another good story. He was diagnosed with cancer. He missed all of last season, and he's returning. So that's a great story. He's in the mix. Tua is on this. These are the third best odds. Okay. Tua might be in consideration if it was a normal year, if there wasn't a Damar Hamlin, but I don't buy it. You have Breece Hall on the list. Russell Wilson is on this list. I don't know where he's coming back from. An ego? Just getting his ego parked at the door. He's coming back from being an asshole. Is that his comeback there? Calvin Ridley at plus 5,000 is interesting because he gambling and everything he went through. Another one but to me, Damar Hamlin is the bet if he steps on the field. And if he doesn't step on the field and he's just in uniform, I don't see how Damar Hamlin doesn't win this award. There's another one I wanted to cover. Oh, yes. Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year. The leading candidate right now is Dan Campbell at plus 1,000. Followed by Arthur Smith for some reason at plus 1,400. You have Sean Payton plus 1,400. Matt Eberflus with the Bears. Here's what I think the value is. The first four, Dan Campbell definitely has the best odds of winning that. The next two on the list are interesting to me. You have Matt LaFleur with the Green Bay Packers, who's won a Coach of the Year award before, but he did at Aaron Rodgers. My vote is for Mike Tomlin. Steelers are going to make the playoffs. Mark my words. Tomlin going through in Pittsburgh, they never rebuilt, but they're going to have a really good team, and somehow they just stay relevant. They stay competitive. They're going to win 9 to 11 games. I think it's going to be at least 10. They might get 11. They will push Cincinnati for the AFC North crown. You can get Mike Tomlin at plus 1,800. That's where I'm going with it. He is such a good coach. He'll have this team prepared. Kenny Pickett is better than Mitch, than Big Ben later in his career. You can get really good value at plus 1,800. The Steelers are a good team. You hear about Cincinnati, you hear about Baltimore. Pittsburgh is the sleeping giant. I like Mike Tomlin at plus 1,800 to be the coach of the year. Here's a few over-unders I like. I went through these yesterday for you all. So the New York Jets, their win total is at 9.5. I like the over. The Giants are at 7.5 wins. I don't have them making the playoffs, but I do think they get over 7 wins. I think they'll get to 8 wins. I like the Giants, over 7.5. Pittsburgh Steelers, 8.5 is the line. They just want me to gamble on that one. Steelers over 8.5, easy, cash it now. Seattle over 8.5, yep. 8.5, where do you come up with that? Seattle's making the playoffs, over 8.5 wins. This is an under. Indianapolis, their line currently on FanDuel is 6.5 wins. Indianapolis ain't winning no 6 wins. They're not winning 6.5. They're not winning 6 3/4. They're not winning six games. Period. Go on and bet this right now. Indianapolis under 6.5. They stink, Indianapolis. They're going to be picking inside the top 7. No, they're not winning 6 games. With no Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson with Michael Pittman as the best receiver, spare me. No chance. I love Green Bay. Over 7.5 wins. They're going to win that division. They're better than people think. Dallas over 9.5. It sounds a little scary. 9.5. Nope, not for the Dallas Cowboys. They're winning at least 10 games. They'll win more than 10. Cincinnati, 11.5. I like the under because I think they're going to win 11 games. It's a risky bet. It's a big number, but I like them winning 11 games. The number's at 11.5. Take the under. You win the bet. Pretty simple. And my last one that I looked at that I enjoyed, the Atlanta Falcons. 8.5. 8.5, really? Atlanta? With Desmond Ridder, is the Green Lizard going to start playing games for this team? Is that why they're going to win over 8.5 games? No. Take the under and the 8.5 wins for the Atlanta Falcons. That's the bet. No more of this craziness. So those are some over-unders for you. Because right now, if you just go on these sites, you can get some good lines. And you can get some... I find the books are a little erratic this year. They're giving people some good odds. You're looking at going, this number and that number? Why is it like that? It's a little puzzling, but hey, I don't need them to justify their answer. I just need to capitalize on their mistakes. I hope you all can do that as well. Super Bowl. Last year, I was so close to having the Super Bowl correct. I had the Chiefs playing the 49ers in the Super Bowl. And I had the Chiefs winning. Which they did, but they beat the Eagles. So what now? It's so hard to pick against the Chiefs. I've gone through this. I love their quarterback. I love their coach. But I am going to pick against them. I'm picking the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFC. I have the Bengals playing the Eagles for the Super Bowl, and I have the Eagles avenging last year's defeat and winning the Lombardi Trophy. I love what the Eagles do. I love their roster. I get, okay, you lost people, and you look at it and go, you're going to have a hangover, it's not going to do this. I think Kansas City will lose to Cincinnati in the AFC Championship game like they did a couple years ago in Arrowhead. I think the Eagles will defeat the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. San Francisco's great. But Dallas they're really good. They just are. So it's tough. It's hard to make this prediction because I love Kansas City. They're so talented. And even looking at the 49ers, they're tough for me not to take because their roster's loaded with really good skill position players. I apologize because my dog is hearing the garbage truck and freaking out. So she'll join us for a quick second. But there's a lot of good teams, a lot of talent. And it's a battle to see who's going to get there, but I have the Eagles beating the Bengals in a really fun Super Bowl, a fun matchup. Jalen Hurts being the MVP, being the Super Bowl MVP as well. So a big year for Jalen and a solid season for the Bengals, even though they got to play the tough Steelers. They got to go through the Ravens. Again, I apologize for this. She's been better lately, old Dirk, but she's a little cranky today with the garbage truck. So we'll let her breathe for a second. But that's what I have in the Super Bowl. Tonight's game, Chiefs, Lions. I'm curious to see Aiden Hutchinson go up against Donovan Smith, new left tackle for the Chiefs. How does Donovan Smith hold up? That's a really good test early in the season because Aiden Hutchinson's going to come out of the blocks hot, ready to go. I want to see Jahmyr Gibbs play with this offense, how they use him. Is Travis Kelce going to play? That's the big question. We haven't heard much. He's going to test out the knee in a workout apparently this morning or this afternoon to see how it feels. He hasn't missed a game since his rookie season 10 years ago. So that would be a big loss for the Chiefs to start the year. Tonight's game on FanDuel, Detroit's a 4.5-point underdog. No Chris Jones, possibly no Travis Kelce, so the number has gone down. I think it's going to be a close game tonight. Opening games are always weird. New England used to always lose the opening game after winning the Super Bowl the year before. I remember one year they got shellacked by the Kansas City Chiefs and Alex Smith. The Rams got destroyed by the Buffalo Bills last year to open up the season. So it wouldn't surprise me if Detroit can cover the number tonight. I'm not betting on this game, though. It's the first game. It's just weird. I don't have a great feel about it. I think the Chiefs win, even without Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, but I'm not 100% confident in it. So we'll see. But we'll talk about it tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to go through all the games for the weekend, betting lines, what I like, what I don't like, break down the individual matchups, talk about the college football slate. We got UFC 293 in Sydney, Australia. So we got that pay-per-view. We'll talk about some baseball, a big signing for the Ottawa Senators last night. We'll touch on that tomorrow. So that's all forthcoming. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy the women's semifinals in the U.S. Open. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk about it all. Till then, take care. This is To The Point.